another edition of the Book Club of the Year for Young Adults. It's our conversation with young readers and critics about the book of the month, and we're talking about Eagle of the Ninth. It's by Rosemary Sutcliff. And my trio of young men who are with me today are all from Cathedral High School: John Herania, Rodney Bravo, and Anthony Galvan. Thanks, guys, for being with us today. Let's start off by trying to set this in a period of history. Where does this take place, Rodney?
It takes place first in Rome, where Marcus is from, and then he moves with his uncle, and all over basically, trying to find where his father left off.
And you want to give us the basic story, Anthony?
Well, it's basically Marcus is looking for his father because his father was part of a legion and it got lost. They never found it again, and so he's basically looking for his father, but he gets injured, his leg, and he has to stay with his uncle to recuperate, and he meets a lot of interesting people there, and yeah,
that's the basic thing.
Yeah.
Well, this is based on a little bit of history, isn't it, John?
Yeah.
Tell us what's the true part of this story.
Well, the connection is with how the Romans controlled, or like they were in Britain, and that's how the lifestyle of pretty much most of the people there, they were Roman, even though they were in England, Britain, and
well, the Romans were the occupying army.
They occupied.
But there were also the
land.
people there sort of living their own British lives
Yeah.
at the same time. But what was the mystery that this book tried to solve?
They lost the eagle,
Which was what?
which was
What was it?
The
Rodney?
eagle was the symbol of the Ninth Legion, which Marcus's father was in, and it went missing and no one knew what happened to it.
I was trying to figure out in my mind what it looked like. I mean, when you visualized it from the book, what did it look like to you?
Well, when I first heard of it, I thought like a statue on a pole, like gold wings.
And how big? How big did you imagine it?
I would say
I mean, were you thinking really big?
yeah, really high. Something that you could notice from a distance, a good
Okay.
distance.
I was thinking of a giant staff where people would know right away that they were the eagle, the Legion of the Ninth.
And what did you think it was, Anthony? In your mind, did you have a vision? I mean, was it three-dimensional? Was it flat?
It was pretty big. I thought it would be like something unique that they didn't really have that much of back when Romans occupied Britain. Something, gold really, because gold was a very valuable resource back then.
Even now,
Yeah,
if you
too.
can imagine having something that big made out of gold, it would certainly be valuable, let alone the historic value of it, just the gold value alone. What do we know about the main character? What kind of a guy was he? How old was he? Rodney?
I would, if I had to say, 30s probably.
In his 30s?
Yeah.
You think he was that old? How old do you think he was?
Or mid-20s.
Yeah,
Or
mid-20s.
Mid-20s, Anthony? What do you think?
I would think he was older in mid-20s, like 30s, because he had the responsibility of taking charge of his group,
He was
to
pretty
find.
much in command. Early in the book, he meets a guy who's a local, a Briton, and they have this chariot race. I mean, describe that. Did that seem like, have you seen those old movies with Spartacus and the chariot? I mean, was that what came to your mind?
Yeah, like Colosseum kind of a thing. And like excitement, everyone screaming. Yeah.
What were those called? Like, it wasn't a Colosseum, but it was where the chariot races were taking place during Roman times. It was more,
The circus? Was that
yeah,
it?
probably the circus.
Or the amphitheater? I don't know what they were. It's
Yeah,
been a while
I
since I've
imagine
had
it was.
Roman history. You guys have had it sooner than I have. When did you have it? What do we decide? 6th or 7th?
Seventh.
grade.
7th grade is when you got it. Now, how accurate do you think the details were in this book compared? I mean, I don't know if you can even remember back to 7th grade. It hasn't been that many years. But to remember the details of the kinds of things you learned in history class, how much of this either added or changed what you learned or brought memories back? Anthony?
I think the details of it were pretty good, close to like.
Give me an example of something that sticks in your head.
Like, well, take the chariot races for example. Those brought back, okay, yeah, Roman era. So I just, it really makes you remember back to when that was.
What else? Anything else about maybe the way they live?
Also the style of the names.
The style of the
Yeah.
names, like
Yeah.
what?
Marcus. for
Like
one.
Marcus, yeah. And all the Latin names
Yeah.
that were in there. Do you guys have to take Latin in school?
No.
See, things have changed. Or just Spanish. See, my dad had to take Latin when he went to Cathedral High School. I don't think anybody knows how to speak Latin anymore.
No.
Probably not. What about the way they ate? I mean, was there something specific? She got a lot of little details in here, I
Yeah,
thought.
they hunted their own food.
They hunted their own food. And how did they eat when they sat in the round and they ate dinner? Do you remember that part?
Well, it probably with their hands.
Yeah, and they didn't have chairs necessarily.
Yeah. It was like a long bench, would you say?
Yeah, like laying around
Yeah.
eating, which seems kind of clunky. I think you'd spill all over yourself, but I guess not. So our main character, of course, was Marcus, but he makes a friend pretty early on named Eska. Tell us about Eska.
Well, originally when Marcus first saw Eska, he was in a battle, and when he was about to die, Marcus saved his life and said that he would take him on, and he took him on as a slave. And later when Marcus is about to go on his journey to find what happened to the lead of Ninth, he asks Eska to join him, but tells him that not as a slave, but as his own choice to join him, and he does.
Did that make you think at all about that whole idea of slavery, both then and also here in the United States? About what it would be like if you were Eska versus being Marcus?
I thought he was asking Eska more of as a friend, how he approached him, and how they actually went along together. It was less of Marcus telling him what to do, straight out order, one by one, and more like depending on each other.
Like real friends.
Yeah.
That idea, though, about what you could and could not do as a slave in those days versus a free person or even a Roman citizen. I can't remember from Roman history class the kinds of things you got as a bonus when you became a Roman citizen. You guys remember that? You don't either. All right, let's describe the circus, because that's where they first meet Eska. There's that battle between the two of them, but there was also a lot of animals involved.
And tigers and a lot of exotic animals that they probably wouldn't see in everyday circumstances.
And the bear that fighting.
Bears, yes.
Does that kind of, I know it's politically incorrect to say that we would enjoy watching those things too. But do you think we would? Can you think of it, compare the kinds of things that the Roman citizens like to watch and go out and watch, and think about anything that maybe we go out and watch today that would be similar?
I think it's a lot different, because in the book it made it seem like they like to watch death or people getting killed, and that's what it seemed like, because they bet on that kind of stuff. And today it's not so much that.
Well, I guess you could say maybe video games are kind of like
Oh,
that
yeah.
sometimes. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out here. Or I keep thinking car races. Like that guy that crashed last week. And are there other things that are similar in our culture or different in our culture?
I thought they were similar. I thought
Which things?
the whole entertainment thing, because usually the Romans go out to see entertainment, and eat, and we haven't really changed that much. We go out on the weekends to, eat, and have fun with our friends, and, go see some entertainment. And, yeah, so I think it's pretty much the same.
John?
In terms of the destruction,
Yeah.
they're probably the same. Like, people always want action, some daring, but in how the entertainers present is a whole lot different now. There'll be a lot of controversies if they put people to death. But,
Of course, you always keep wondering. They keep saying when our civilization gets, raunchier and raunchier, they keep saying, it's the fall of the Roman Empire. That's what they keep saying about our society. I was wondering if you saw any similarities, Here you have Roman society, the strongest kingdom, if you want to put it that way, the strongest empire, that's the word I'm looking for, in the world. And it's extending its empire as further out as it can, and it's occupying or trying to occupy England and Scotland and Wales, and with some success, more successful in the south. And I was wondering if you saw any correlation between that and what's going on maybe in Iraq today, or not?
I think it's probably the same objective we're trying to get over there. I mean, well, they say we're just trying to make it safe and everything, but I'm pretty sure they just want to get Iraq on our side, so that if conflict breaks out later on, we have them to rely on, and if we get invaded or something.
I didn't mean so much. That's good. I didn't mean so much the political overtones, but what I was thinking was just how they were almost like guerrilla fighters. The people, the Britons. They knew the land and they knew the language. They were so much smarter than the Romans, even though the Romans were the most powerful army in the world. Talk about the hunt. They describe that hunt. Maybe before we do that, let's talk about Garin, the character of Garin. He was the legionnaire who became a tribesman. Do you remember his character? Anthony?
Yeah, I think I remember. Is he the one that he's on the Britain side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he seemed friendly at first towards Marcus, letting him ride his chariot.
Not him. That's what's that guy's name? Cradock.
That guy died.
That guy dies. Yeah. They sort of introduce this really interesting character and then they kill him off right away, which was kind of weird. No, when he goes into the outback and the wild out there. And he meets this guy who was in his father's unit.
Oh, yes.
Rodney, tell about that guy.
They first meet him when they're taking shelter, and the first thing he remembers about it was the whistling, right?
That's right, because what is he whistling? He's
whistling that tune that all the legions used to sing. I forgot the words though.
I don't remember it either. It's in the book, but it's a song about women.
Yeah, like
part.
I met a girl. And
yeah,
like that.
I met a girl here, and it was this kind of a girl, but she wasn't as good as this kind of girl,
Yeah.
and it goes on and on and on and on and on. Yeah, okay. So he recognizes the tune, and he realizes this guy is not who he thinks he is.
Yeah. At first, he doesn't want to approach him with, "Were you part of this legion?" He just lets him introduce himself basically and see what he's about. And then later on, he asks him, and he reveals that he was.
He tells the scariest story. He tells the story of how that legion fell apart, basically. Why did the 9th disappear? What happened to them? What was it about it that made them fail? There were a lot of things. John? Anybody can jump in.
He mentioned that they became stuck. I can't find that word. But they became stuck, and they just started, I guess, would you say sacrificing people? Not really sacrificing, but taking other people's lives. But it was only so they could live longer.
I don't remember that part. When they were trying to go back south, when they were trying to escape with their lives, the native Britons hunted them down, which to me that was the scariest part of the book, was his whole description of just knowing somebody was coming after you, knowing that they were going to be faster than you were, and there was nothing you could do about it. That was scary to me. There's also, they adopt, Eska and Marcus have a wolf cub. Tell a little bit about that.
Well, Eska goes on a hunt. First he asks Marcus's permission to go, and he lets him go by himself because Marcus, his leg wasn't fully healed by then. And so Eska goes out, and I guess when he gets back, he brings this little cub, and he tells him that he didn't find it, but he found the mother, and I guess the other people in the hunt, they killed the mother, and they're just gonna leave the cub there, but Eska brought the cub home, and they nurtured it, and they just kept it for themselves.
After you guys read this book, did it make you want to live in those times?
It was pretty hectic during those times.
Why? What was hectic about it?
Well, there was always that sense of alarm. Maybe we have that even now, terrorism, or especially after the events of 9/11. But like maybe streets of LA, like it could be the same even now. But like back then, it was more sharp things trying to poke.
Well, let's put it this way: if you did live in those days, who would you want to be and where would you want to live? Would you want to be a Roman living in Rome? Would you want to be a soldier? Would you want to be one of the Britons way up in the north?
If we knew how Rome would eventually turn out.
Or just if you got flashed back in time, who would you want to be?
I would probably want to be a soldier, I guess, fighting for Rome. Probably the big thing there.
What about you, Rodney?
I think I'd like to be a Roman living in Rome, because it seemed like out of Rome, living was like more independent for people, and they relied so much more on resources, our natural resources.
Yeah, they didn't have all the luxuries of the
Yeah.
hot water baths. And
So Rome seemed like they had it easier. I guess.
What about you, Anthony?
I think I'd also like to be a Roman, like someone probably high, like politically. So
You want to be a senator, don't you?
So like, you can, I could have a big home, nice family, and I wouldn't have to worry so much about like outside invasions or something.
Yeah, would be
More
nice to have
security.
just a safe place. Yeah. So give me your verdict on the book. Good, bad, indifferent. Would you recommend it to somebody else?
I like the book. When I first picked it up, I had no idea what it was going to be about. When you look at the front, I thought it was going to be like a history book, kind of.
Yeah.
You read the back, there's like so many words, just coming at you that might have come from a history book, maps, dates, And I think the writer did well putting it together. And when you get on the first page, it doesn't really like tell us about the whole thing, because you really get sucked into it as you go along, as the story progresses.
Did both the Latin words and the historical places confuse you at times? Because there's no glossary. There were some things I never understood a couple of words, and
There was only a key places glossary, but I think it was more giving into the feeling of it, just getting in the zone of the Romans. I mean,
I like that, getting into the
Yeah.
zone of the Romans.
it's like picking up a fantasy book where some unknown land. It's not really going to be important once you finish the book, but it adds to, there's some history to it.
And it carried you through to the end?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, there's one yes. One thumbs up, as the Romans would have said. What about you, Rodney?
Yeah, it was good. It's not something I would usually read, but it was good still. I thought she did a good job. There was history there, and I heard good things about the author as well.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
From whom?
from our librarian at school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, what do you usually like to read?
I usually like to read fiction stuff.
Yeah,
Like one of my favorite books is The Giver.
by Lois Lowry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a wonderful book. So that's kind of in the science fiction realm.
Yeah.
Is that more where you lean?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna come back to that in a second or two. What'd you think of the book, Anthony? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I liked it. It wasn't.
Not an enthusiastic thumbs up. I'm getting sort of a mediocre thumbs up here.
Yeah, it was enough to keep you wanting to read the next page. Not wanting to know what happens. It didn't just leave you hanging at the end of every chapter. So I liked it.
Do you think that's because the story was interesting enough, or because there was a mystery to be solved?
I think it was just because the story was. I liked the whole, the plot, the way it was going, and part of it was because there was a mystery to solve at the end, where his father went.
And you like the characters well enough?
Yeah, other characters. Really like Marcus.
Is this like anything else you've ever read? John, can you think of anything else that this reminds you of? Or Anthony? Or Rodney?
No. I
Well,
can't think of it.
I thought it was like there's this guy who wants to delve into probably his father's past just to find out what happened, and just one of those stories that.
Give me another book that does that. May not be in Rome,
Something.
may not be a mystery, maybe something else, but what else is just like that? That's a classic, I'll tell you, that's a classic theme that you're going to find in literature forever and ever. Or even a movie, can you think of a similar theme? What?
Star Wars.
Star Wars,
Yeah.
you know, you got it. That's
Star
exactly
Wars, yeah.
right. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a classic, you know, there are certain stories, they say there's only about 7 of them, classic plots, and they just keep reinventing them in 100 different ways. And this is nothing like Star Wars, but it's got the same basic lurking for the truth about one's father in it. Yeah. So, style-wise, we can't think of another book this reminds us of. Is there any other Roman history books or any of the Roman fiction books you've ever stumbled over?
This was actually my first.
Yeah, mine too.
Mine too. I was looking for other suggestions there. So give me, now we've got your genre, your favorite genre is more science fiction. You mentioned Star Wars, John. Are you a science fiction reader too?
Yeah, and fantasy.
And fantasy too. For example, what's your favorite?
The Lord of the Rings by J.R. Tolkien.
Have you read them all?
Yes.
I am very
even
impressed.
Even the Silmarillion, even books before that. Yeah.
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit. Yeah.
I couldn't get through anything after The Hobbit, I admit it. I don't know why. It just was not very interesting to me. But I like Madeleine L'Engle. She writes more girl stuff, but it's fantasy, science fiction-y stuff. What else?
Oh, Edgar Allan Poe really gets me. Shakespeare.
Which one?
I actually have this book right now. It has sad words on one side and the stories on the other, so it kind of helps. And it's just a collection of all the stories.
Yeah.
I recently finished Telltale Heart, Black Cat, Legia, and
They don't keep you up at night?
no,
They're
compared to
kinda
like all the
scary.
movies we have.
Oh, I
right
guess
now,
so.
Yeah,
I guess so. Yeah.
Shakespeare also.
You like reading Shakespeare?
I'm starting to get into it.
Which one?
I started Romeo and Juliet,
Yeah.
and a couple of years ago, I think I read Macbeth. Yeah, a really intense story.
It's a very intense story. Hamlet's my favorite, I think. Yeah, that's another one. Son searching for the truth about his father. It's the same
Yeah,
exact
that's
story. So we've got another one. So you mentioned The Giver. What else do you
Yeah.
like to read? What else is one of your favorites, Rodney?
Well, actually, one of my favorite books we're reading in class right now is To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, isn't that a good book?
Yeah, so far. I haven't finished it yet.
Oh, such a good book. What about you, Anthony? What's the genre you gravitate to?
Mostly fantasy.
Yeah,
The Harry Potter series.
of course.
I love those books.
You've read all of them?
Yes.
How fast did it take you to read the last one? Because that was like 800 pages, wasn't
The
it?
last one took me, I think, a week.
Wow.
I'd just sit in the room and read for hours.
How do the movies stand up compared to the books?
They leave out a lot of information, but it's enough to know the main story, the main storyline.
For a good movie, I think it makes it. It does it well.
Yeah. Well, the same thing I'll ask you after you've finished To Kill a Mockingbird and then see the film, because I think that's one of the rare cases where the movie lives up to the book.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Oh, it's really
Teachers
good.
always say it's one of the least books that the movie is really accurate on the book.
It is, and it just they fit together so well, I think. You almost, when you're reading the book, then, of course, once you've seen the movie and then you go back to the book, you're spoiled forever. Have you found that going back to any Harry Potters after you've read the book?
I've actually read the whole series twice.
Twice. So in your mind, are you still seeing that actor who played?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're stuck. I mean, you may have had a different Harry Potter in your head, but now you're stuck with him forever. So what other, besides Harry, how about Philip Pullman? Have you read Philip Pullman, if you like that? That's another one. He writes I think the first one was The Golden Compass, and it's another science fiction-y kind of thing. City of Ember is another one. These are some of the books that we've done on book club in the past.
I like Ender's Game.
Ender's Game, yes. Arson Scott Card. We did that one on book club too. That's a scary one also,
Yeah.
as I recall.
Major twist,
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, coming up, we're going to be out at the Festival of Books. Have you guys ever been? No? Every year, the LA Times has this big hoo-ha at UCLA on campus on a Saturday and a Sunday, the last Saturday and Sunday in April. and it's free, and they have writers. I don't know if Orson Scott Card's going to be there, but I'll lay you odds at least one of your favorite writers is going to be there. And there's free seminars, and there's music all day long. And we do a book club there as well on the ETC stage. We're going to be there Sunday morning this time. So if you're in the area, come on over on Sunday morning and say hello and ask questions, because we're going to have the writer there. So sometimes we get the writer here to the library, but usually, I think she's in England, so she couldn't come. But we are getting the writer this time around. And we're going to be, you're going to ask me the name of the book we're going to read, and I can't remember it. But that invitation goes for you as well. If you'd like to join us, we'll be at the Festival of Books the last weekend in April. It'll be Sunday, I think that's the 29th of April, I believe at 10:30 in the morning on the ETC stage. It's free, and we hope you'll come on over and ask questions, both of the people on. See, you guys get away with this. If you were down at the Festival of Books, the guys in the audience would be asking you questions. So you got off easy. But that's what can happen. You can ask our readers questions, and you can ask the author questions, and you can ask me questions, and we will ask you questions, and we hope you'll be there as well. And if you can't make it then, you can always come on down, because we're down here at the Downtown Central Library, first Wednesday of the month, about 4 in the afternoon in the children's reading room. So come on down and say hi. And if you'd like to be on the book club, just send us an email to bookcluboftheair, just write it out, at yahoo.com, and we will put you on. Thanks so much to John and to Rodney and to Anthony from Cathedral High School. Thanks, you guys. You were great today.